Yeah, I think that as regards France, it's, well, I view myself as, in a way, a pioneer. I'm the only one, as far as I know, who has taken legal action as an English teacher for this kind of discrimination. So this is relatively new, I think, in France. That
why do you think that is? I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but you're saying this, and I'm thinking, why do you think that is? Why do you think so few teachers? Because I'm sure that a big percentage of teachers experience this. Why do you think there are so few of them actually taking action?
Well, so first of all, as I said, you still can find work even if you're not a native teacher, native English teacher. So basically, many teachers like me, when they are treated badly by schools, when their application is rejected, they just turn to another school, and eventually they find work, because that's possible. And maybe the second reason for that is, I think many teachers like me feel they are not experienced or qualified enough, maybe, to be legitimate in a way, and so they just don't argue, and they keep looking for other opportunities elsewhere. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's true, like what you said. I experienced this as well, because there is it's a big inferiority complex sometimes that non-native English teachers have, because they are worried that by denouncing this or reporting something, that their credentials or their their personal identity might come into question. Where we see this a lot online, don't we? When someone says something against native speakerism, that the native speaker feels a bit attacked by this. Instead of supporting non-native English teachers, they feel that there is a sort of a dichotomy, and we have to be or on one side or the other, and do something, about, it's like a rat race, as in who is a better teacher, who is more qualified. And what happens, I see this quite often, and I think it's very detrimental to our practice, when some teachers tend to disagree, and they might be even not teachers, when they tend to disagree with the non-native English speaker's opinion, they would then kind of dismantle or pick on the grammatical errors present, the punctuation, the language use, in a way to ironically justify why the native speaker would be better, and why, as a consequence, the language school has the right to discredit, officials. Do you think that is something that might happen in real life as well, not only just on the internet?
Social media, yeah. Well, it's happened to me recently, and I think, well, I could tell you a story that's quite interesting about that, because recently I applied to a job offer that a school had published on LinkedIn, and then the lady replied and told me that could not accept my application, well, even consider my application, because they only hire native English teachers. Yes, and this was specified on the job ad as well as on their website. So she just reminded me of that, and but she said that she would still consider my application if I could send her a full skill certification, of my level in English, like LinguaSkill or TOEIC, of less than 2 years, which shows a level of C1 at least in 4 skills. So obviously she would never have asked a native English teacher for such documents. And I think this clearly shows that being a native English teacher is viewed as a reliable proof that you are proficient in English, which is wrong, basically. And so I told her that I had a CELTA, and that one of the requirements to take the CELTA is to be proficient in English, right?
Yes.
So she, I offered to send my CELTA certificate to this lady, and to have an interview in English so she could check my level of English. And well, she accepted. So we had this interview in English, and she really checked my level, like yeah, everything, like my pronunciation. And she said she was happy with my English, but
Okay.
she said, well, I'm not sure about the pronunciation of pandemic or some words like that, because we'd had a discussion, and then it felt really weird, because I was assessed on my English level. And but eventually, well, I got a second interview, and eventually she said she'd like to work with me, but only for low levels, yeah, to teach like beginners, elementary learners.
And at that time,
well,
did you
sorry.
question why? Did you kind of question why she was having this interview to begin with? Why wasn't your certification as an English language teacher to speakers of other languages enough for her? Why do you think it did not stop, or did you question that at the interview?
Well, I thought to myself, let's try, let's see where it leads me. I mean, I just wanted to see if I could get this job by staying, yes, like polite, even if it was boiling inside me. Obviously, I wanted to ask her, why do you ask me for such documents while you were a native speaker? To give you this document.
Yes, you didn't want to influence, let's say, the choice of words.
Yeah, in a way, I think that's what happened. Yeah.
Yes.
And well, I thought it was interesting to tell you a story. Like, if you have CELTA or a similar qualification in ELT, it's already approved that your English is good enough, that you're proficient, and so you can teach.
This in is the like native something that we had this conversation before of the inequality and the unfairness in the treatment for teachers who have teachers who have had a full blown education, who have completed university studies, who have been integrated in in an English speaking country, who have relevant experience, who have certificates, who have a proficiency test result, and still get denied a work opportunity. I know for once, and I want to take this opportunity to do a sort of a revelation if this wasn't clear, but the university of a famous university in Italy denied me as their teacher for the IELTS course for their students who were at B1, B2 level, while I held a bachelor degree, I had a CELTA and a Delta, and I was fresh out of my studies. But not only did they deny me, they did not allow me to speak English at the interview. And so this was also very, yes. And that is why my whole journey started with that encounter, because I was under some sort of a illusion or delusion, I would say, that by getting the right qualifications, that certain doors would be open for me finally. And then when I realized that I had finally, you mentioned having this inferiority complex, or not feeling that you might be enough, or that some people can question you and say, well, are you in fact that good enough to be hired? I think I had gotten rid of those insecurities at that stage, because I felt like I did very well and I had invested time, money, and effort in my skills, in my teaching skills. And to simply be denied to speak the language, I think was the last, straw. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, And so I remember I called the language school who had sent me there, and I decided on that day right there that I was going to pursue this till, I had some air left in me and I was alive. And it is going to be so, because I just find it so unequal and so unfair. And more people should question this bias that is present, whether they are native or non-native. But this is what this whole conversation is about. And it's really important that we feel safe and supported by other colleagues to have these conversations and to educate those around that are, just saying these things about the client wants this, or the school prefers that, or you are able to teach, but within a particular group or a certain group or in this particular class, as though we weren't fully qualified or as good as, when, as you mentioned, if you're a native speaker, sometimes you get hired without a CELTA, without any teacher qualifications, and you don't have to prove any level of proficiency, unfortunately. And so it just goes to show you that there is a big imbalance in who is allowed to teach a class, right?
Yeah, right. It often feels like a lonely walk, even if you have supportive people out there on the web and in your family, friends, etc. But so many, institutions, schools just ignore the problem, and it makes it even more difficult. Yes, it takes a lot of energy and time to really continue the fight, but I think it's necessary. But it's not something that we have really decided. Well, something that we would prefer to dedicate time to other stuff. I mean, because
No, it definitely takes
time that you spend.
Active battle. Yes, you need to speak up about it, but there are so many things that get in the way. And with that, we also have jobs to do and lesson planning, and everything that comes in the way of actually doing our jobs. So to find the extra time to dedicate to this, I think, it requires a lot of effort and a lot of support. And I think almost that the people who are actively fighting it have sort of experienced this firsthand. And they have made it like their life's mission to disprove this myth that a native speaker teacher should in fact be better, and so much that this is advertised. I'm very very active on social media, and I call out these practices on a daily basis. I don't think that it is we try to be politically correct and preserve ourselves also in our occupation by sometimes not calling out the institutions or the language schools that do this to us. But in a way, by being so, diplomatic and politically correct, what we do is that we perpetuate, we just, in a way, silently agree that this is something that can be done to us. And I think that is very, it's
exactly.
It's really negative if this is what we are facing. We should all be moving towards, the end goal should be the same, that there is no such thing, that you're not born into an occupation and that you need to have acquired a skill set and have invested on your formation. Otherwise, what is the purpose of going through, of jumping through so many hoops? Exactly. We're still not getting any recognition for all the effort and time that we've put in our work. And the ultimate goal is to be teaching our students, and we're not allowed to do that. And even if we are asked to sometimes conceal our identities, not talk about where we're from. We are judged on our pronunciation. And that's not something that they tell their students when they come to enroll into a course. They don't say to them that you have the wrong pronunciation to follow the course somehow. But then the teacher needs to have sort of an ideal perfect pronunciation, which we still are figuring out what this pronunciation is. Correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's why I'm really looking forward to get support from legal authorities in order to to be able to name and shame some discriminators, and that's what we need to do. As you say, if we remain so diplomatic, things will basically not change much, because we need to go further. Yes, that's why
I found from my experience that some online organizations have changed their marketing strategies, and it might have been just a mention on something or a comment that, I don't know if you had the same experience, but when you call it out, sometimes they take it away. And that's already good in a way that they retract what they've said, or they understand that they might pushed too many buttons.